Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kurt. Welcome back to Far Lands or Bust. Boop and a boop. We are at episode 218 of Far Lands or Bust, where we are continuing to walk to the Far Lands in an old version of Minecraft. Minecraft Beta 1.7.3. It's because this is the last version that actually contains the aforementioned Far Lands. But we're also doing so as a walk-a-thon for Child's Play charity, where over at farlandsorbust.com you can donate, and we got a few pretty substantial, very generous donations in the in between the last episode and this one. So we're actually up to $12,927. Whoop, having problems getting in a boat. There we go. So yeah, $12,927 raised this season, season 4 of Far Lands or Bust. Thank you very much. Thank you very bunch. Thank you very bunch. Making up new words. Thank you very much to those generous donations, and any donation that we got between now and then. That always helps. Like I said, every episode that I see that little donation mark go back up, it gets me more enthused about continuing to head west towards the Far Lands, making some good time here. Awesome stuff indeed. So yeah, like I said, farlandsorbust.com is where you want to go. Find the donate widget, the button that allows you to donate, and then you can donate via PayPal. It goes through PayPal, and all the money goes directly to Child's Play charity, and they help get toys, books, games to kids in hospitals around the world. And it's a great cause, and I'm very happy to be in the 4th season of supporting such a cause. And we're actually, if you go to childsplaycharity.org, Far Lands or Bust, you can see the Far Lands or Bust logo right there on the homepage as a platinum sponsor, and that is thanks to you guys, the Farlanders, for all the money we have raised so far for Child's Play charity in previous seasons. Over $90,000 on behalf of Far Lands or Bust, which is crazy. Crazy, I say. Crazy indeed, right, Wolfie? He has places to go, people to see, Far Lands to be gotten to. But yeah, all right, cool. Now that we've got that out of the way, we're continuing. Oh, I thought that was a bird. It's a mushroom. I'm like, oh my god, there's a bird in the game. No. Woof. Just a mushroom. Tree, mushroom. But yeah, continuing on. I guess I could follow up. Got a follow-up to a story from the previous episode. I was talking about the Chelyabinsk, Russia, the meteor that came streaking through the sky, the largest, at least the largest to be experienced by humans since the Tunguska event over 100 years ago. But they've actually done a little bit more revisions. They've actually been able to map the probable orbit for the object. And there's websites that show the plot. Kind of a weird eccentric orbit that even it had traveled beyond the orbit of Mars and then just happened to cross paths with Earth at this given time. But they've revised the size estimate. I know in the last episode I was thinking probably maybe 5 meters, maybe about the size of a medium-sized van or truck or something. But they've revised the estimates, and they're now saying about 15 to 17 meters across, which is about the size of a house. Much larger object than we thought. Still nothing compared to the 50 meters across that was 2012 DA-14, which passed safely, and also of the similar sized for the Tunguska event, but still 17 meters. That's not a tiny object. I mean, relatively speaking, in terms of the things out there, it is pretty small, and that's why there was no really way to detect it prior to. But still, 17 meters, pretty big. And they say that the energy released that caused the damage, obviously from the shockwave and the bright fireball in the sky, was about 30,000 to 500,000 tons of TNT, the equivalent to, which is about 30 times the size of the Hiroshima atomic bomb. Which is madness. It's just like, it boggles the mind that we're kind of living in an age where we were all able to experience that through the internet, through the videos people have posted. Of course, you might be asking, oh, if that was 30 times a Hiroshima bomb, why didn't it just level the city? Well, this happened at about 20 miles above the ground, which, if you remember the guy, the Red Bull Stratos guy, that was, I think he was a little bit higher than 20 miles in the sky, but that's about 100,000 feet. So that's that's higher than your commercial airlines usually travel, about 30 to 40,000 feet. So it was very high in the sky, which is a good thing, is that's when all of its energy was released. Of course, if it came in much more at a steeper angle, that energy would have been directed much closer to the ground, and that would have been really bad. But even then, at 20 miles into the sky, you have that kind of energy released. Woo! You had the doors being blown out and windows being destroyed. Hey, zombie, how you doing? I'm just gonna continue on. Don't mind me. So yeah, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. And of course, since then, and perhaps some of you have, but there's one over, was it LA or San Francisco? Somebody saw a meteor and was like, ooh, it's another one. And even over Cuba and other places. What they're seeing is basically no need to get scared. These aren't related events. Those bright meteors that you see, like the ones that happened over San Francisco or wherever it was, or the one I was describing I experienced a couple years ago, those sort of what are known as fireball meteors, the bolides, those happen every day, everywhere. Those are, like I said, about the size of maybe a golf ball or an apple at the most. They're spectacular, sure, yeah. It's a good thing that this event has gotten people looking skyward and questioning maybe we should fund NASA more to get and observatories to start noticing these objects a little bit earlier. Perhaps more funding, or that looks like that's probably lava down there. Yeah, you rarely get a small patch of smooth stone at the surface unless there's lava around it, so we'll avoid it. But, sorry, distracted by the video game while talking about real-world events. So yeah, those things happen every day, and they're not related at all, but it's a good thing. They're neat to see. You get to learn a little bit more about the universe, and really, to put it in perspective, the Earth, planet Earth, gains about 100 tons of material every day through objects coming through the sky. The vast majority of them are those little sand or, salt grain-sized little objects that turn into just your standard meteors. Obviously, the majority of them might happen during the day, so we don't see them at all, or over in the ocean where there's no population, or Antarctica, or, places where people aren't around to see them. So the Earth is gaining 100 tons. 100 tons. I think, sometimes that happens all at once, as would be the case with the event in Russia that just happened. But it's very interesting. And oh, careful! How did you hurt yourself? That wasn't that big of a fall. Must be careful. So it's cool that everybody, this has gotten people sparked interest in thinking about it, and there's Congress people starting an investigation to see what we can do to prepare for such a thing if it were to happen in the future. And, an event like this might not happen for another 100 years, or it could happen tomorrow. They're no way related to the same object or anything like that, but it's worth thinking about and considering. There's no need for any hysteria, or if you do, say, tonight, go out and you see a fireball, a simple bolide meteor, it's like, oh, it's cool, but it's nothing, oh my god, the sky is falling. It's Independence Day, not Independence Day, what's the Armageddon or anything like that. Don't blow things out of proportion, but it's something that astronomers and scientists have been saying for a long time, that it's not worth losing your head over, but it's a present danger, and we're actually in a position now where we could actually start doing something about these objects, or at least, whoa, careful, or at least have like a warning system, something similar to the warning systems that we have for hurricanes or tornadoes, we could set up for asteroids and meteors and things like that could be of concern in the future. So it's an exciting time in which we live, is it not? Is it not? But anyway, let's go to sleep, and we'll continue talking about other such things in the morning. And awakeness. Spelunkness. Sheeps. Oh, look at all these pigs. Let's see if your hunting skills have improved, Wolfie. Because I know you were having some issues the last few days. There we go. Up. Spin move. You missed. Oh, Wolfie wanted to attack this guy. Yeah. Here you go. Up. Oh, he's on the attack, actually. How did you just... Why did you get wet? Oh, dang. Well, I hope I fed that to you. Oh, there was that cartoon that Tarawa, I think that's how you pronounce the username, made. I actually bought on DeviantArt. It's the 3-panel cartoon where it's about feeding Wolfie. Wolfie, sit down, let's feed you. And then the punchline is that in the last panel, I'm actually the one who accidentally eats the treat. I actually got that from DeviantArt. You can buy it as a print. And I have it now adorning the Farlands or Bust offices. Whoop! I got confused there. I looked up at it and got confused. I don't think I was traveling in the wrong direction that long, but yeah, I have that. That just made me think of that. But anyway, what I really wanted to talk about this episode, somewhat related and brought upon by the fact that we had this meteor thing, and there were some fears and stuff's going on. There's this meteor that passed by us, and then on the same day we had a meteor do a lot of damage and cause injuries in Russia, and talk of the end of the world just came a couple months late, whatever and stuff like that. But sort of related, I wanted to talk about one of, I guess, sort of in response, but just sort of on my own. It's something I've wanted to talk about for a little bit anyway, but our friend Pause from the Mindcrack server, recently, in his most recent Mindcrack episode 186 for him, and here I am on episode 32. I'm a slacker. But his episode 186 from the Mindcrack server, he went to talk about a little bit more of a personal topic for him. He talked about fears and his own personal fears. I'll let you watch that episode. I'll remember an annotation or a link in the doobly-doo. But he was talking about fears, and more specifically, how he had kind of an irrational fear about the whole end of the world, December 21st Armageddon thing, and stuff like that, and how that came up. I'll let you watch his episode. But I guess in response to that, I have a very similar experience growing up. I was through school and high school and stuff was... I don't know what it was, but I was very... I don't know if I was convinced by, but I was very into the whole Nostradamus thing. I would check out the books from the library and read them and stuff like that, and try to make connections between this event and that. And I did a lot of research and learned a lot about kind of the whole atomic bomb things, and how many weapons the United States and Russia has, and it could go wrong at any time. And there's definitely in our society a little bit of an obsession with that stuff, and you can just look at what kind of programming is on. Oh gosh. Hey guy. Where are you coming from? Oh, there's two of them. Is it a spawner over here, or just I'll let those guys die and then I will investigate. Uh-oh, he's not gonna die if he comes. Oh. Yeah, you keep on walking. No, I think it was just a... Ooh. I think it was just a random cave. Whoa, watch out. I'm afraid I'm going to accidentally... Speaking of fears, I'm afraid I'm going to fall in lava one time. But no, anyway, yeah, through high school, I don't know why. And like I said, it is kind of an obsession with our culture about... It seems like every generation feels like they're going to be the generation that experiences the Armageddon and the end of the world, and obviously there's... Every religion has some sort of... Almost every religion, I don't know, I can't say, I'm not an expert, but has some sort of myth about the end of the world or revelations or whatever, and it's kind of a weird thing we humans do, but sometimes it kind of gets a little bit out of hand from one person to the next, where it will start to affect their day-to-day life. I mean, I guess other things as a kid I was always kind of had anxieties about. I always had trouble sleeping because I was afraid of, like, ghosts and you know, a noise in the night or a shadow. I swear there was a ghost living in my closet at some point. I could swear that the light turned on and off certain nights and freaked me out. And of course, as a kid, you have a bad dream, and that affects the way you can't sleep, and then you think it's hard to differentiate between the bad dream and real life. And I talked about a few episodes ago, a couple dozen episodes ago, about sleep. I used to have sleep paralysis. Still, every once in a while I get that, but, you know, as a kid, you don't know what the science behind that is. You freak out. You're like, oh my gosh, a ghost is sitting on my chest or something like that. So, yeah, I know Pause in his episode was wondering, oh, what are your fears? And I would definitely say that he is not alone in having, not necessarily calling them all unfounded fears or irrational fears, but it's definitely a human trait. Not anything to be, oh gosh, this is dangerous. Ashamed of. Oh, don't fall. Okay, careful, Wolfie. How's your health doing? Yellow. Wolfie. I heard you bark. I know you're still alive. Alright, maybe you're just caught up on... There he is. He's actually doing pretty good. Yes, he is. He confirmed such things. Of course, now he's going to jump off this cliff right here and take some damage. Oh god! Oh, saw that coming. Oh wow, that was a fall and a half right there. All right, it's hard to talk about these serious topics without getting distracted by the game so often. Perhaps this isn't the right forum for such a thing. But what was I talking about? Yeah. Anyway, we all have fears and things like that, and actually, it took me until maybe in college and stuff, where I started to get a lot more into science, and I actually ended up doing a few research papers. I took some psychology courses and also English courses, and I did research papers on, like, specifically one of the titles of one of my papers was fear. But I looked more at the physiological, the scientific, the evolutionary properties of fear in not necessarily just humans, but animals. And it's a really interesting topic to look into. And you can then learn a lot about yourself, your own fears, and perhaps the fears of society. Talking about the chemical things that happen, how fear is more of an evolutionary survival aspect. Obviously, the animals that felt fear were afraid of the predators or the things that were coming after them, so they were able to react to that. Whereas the animals that didn't have this part of the brain, this chemical in the brain that gave them the fear, flight, or fight response, they would just be like, I am not afraid, and then they would get eaten by a tiger, or a saber-toothed tiger, or a dinosaur, or whatever. So that's the way evolution weeded out those who didn't feel fear. But it does some really interesting things. I was reading how it actually... when your body, human body, animal body, whatever, goes into the state of fear, the survival fear, and I'm not talking about like, oh, being afraid of a zombie movie and things like that, but like genuine fear, like you're about to get in a car accident, say, your body will actually, in order to try to survive, it will start shutting down non-essential systems. Like your stomach will stop digesting. If, say, you have food in there, your stomach will stop digesting, because it will conserve that energy and put it towards your cognitive processes to try to think your way out or react to this event that is putting your life in danger. Also, it will start to shut down certain senses. Like, that's why some people, if you're in a situation where you're really life or death, you'll get tunnel vision, because your body doesn't care about what it sees on your peripheral vision. It only cares about what's directly in front of you. So you can just care about where you're going and things like that. It will also change your perception of time. This is a really interesting one. For people who have been in car accidents or certain life or death situations where they'll say, oh, it felt like, that 15 seconds felt like it was like 5 minutes. And that's because to them, it did. It actually shifts your perception of time. And that way your body and your mind, you have time to think and react. So there's an actual purpose behind your perception of time. It is kind of the bullet time. Not, it's not that dramatic or stylized, obviously, but it's that same perception that your body is trying to give you the best advantage possible to survive whatever catastrophic event is taking place. The same thing happens to, the little gazelles trying to run away from the lions chasing them in the African Serengeti or wherever. They'll get tunnel vision because they just have to worry about where they're going. All their resources and energy will stop doing other things. Their hair will stop growing, their stomachs will stop digesting, and they will put that energy towards the muscles to try to run away and stuff like that. So it's very interesting stuff, and just scientifically is something I was very interested in. Let me go to sleep. Speaking of fear, we're about to experience some of it. And awakeness. See? Oh God, I thought that was a burning zombie. It's the torch, Kurt. It's the torch. Speaking of fear. But yeah, it's something that fascinated me, and it really did kind of turning to the whole scientific reasoning behind things that allowed me to understand my own personal fears and rationalize and not necessarily get over them. Fear isn't something you, like I said, you don't want to not have fear because then you're kind of at a disadvantage evolutionarily, survival-wise and things like that. But it is worth, and it's very interesting to know these things. It's also, like I said, how your body kind of reroutes the power to the most survival-oriented parts. That's why you'll hear stories of mothers being able to lift cars off of their babies or children. It's because at that time, all the adrenaline diverted from other processes to go to the muscles and allow that person to do something that without that fear response, they would never be able to do. But anyway, going beyond that, there is some situations where, obviously look at our lives right now. We don't really have to worry about getting chased down by lions anymore. But we did at some point in our history when our ancestors were climbing down from the trees and venturing out into the plains and evolving and all that stuff 2 million years ago, whatever. So there are situations now and disorders now where those chemicals can be a little bit imbalanced. And humans anyway, I'm talking about humans now, you can kind of overreact a thing, and that's where anxiety disorders come from. Anxiety is just a fancy word for fear. When you start to feel that stuff for no reason, and it does start to affect your life. When you do I've had panic attacks, anxiety attacks in my history, that you start to experience some of those same reactions. You get tunnel vision. Some people throw up because, hey, your body is going through the fear response. It's shutting down some of your systems that you don't need, such as digesting and things. So that's why some people get sick when they have an anxiety attack. They can't sleep. Your body doesn't want you to sleep if it's constantly in a state of fear. You want to be alert and react and things like that. So it's in doing all this research, I've started to understand this stuff, and in our society, I guess it is. I need a boat. I'm coming across all this water. In our society, these sort of mental or chemical disorders are kind of unfortunately frowned upon, and then you end up, people have a stigma attached to it. They either don't want to admit it, or they'll turn to, say, their parents or somebody else, and they'll get the wrong response. when in fact there's plenty out there to help these sort of things. It's all, like I said, it's all chemical. It's all in the brains. There are prescriptions people can take that keep those chemicals in check, just like prescriptions for depression. That's chemicals too. There are prescriptions for suppressing or keeping in check those fear chemicals and responses in the brain. So it's not something to say you want to totally remove yourself from, but it's not something to be thinking like, there's times where I've had panic attacks where I think I'm the only person in the world who must experience this and I'm a freak and blah, 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 blah. That's not the case. There are, more and more and more we're finding that a vast majority of people actually have problems like this. I mean, think about it. Like I was saying, we don't have the type of fears that we did back when we were living in the wild, or even, say, the early settlers of, say, the Western world and things had certain fears of sickness and hunger and not finding food and things like that. We don't have that anymore. Our biggest fears are related to being able to pay our rent, or stuff like that, where we get kind of a misproportion. That's the word I was looking for. A misproportioned response to certain inputs that are then brought up by our fear response. Is the only response our bodies know how to respond with. Respond. Let's say respond 16 more times in this sentence. So yeah, it's an interesting topic that I've thought about, and this whole asteroid and meteor thing, and then pause his last episode he was talking about fears, kind of brought this back up, and this is something I wanted to. I was kind of debating whether or not to talk about that in Far Lands or Bust, or do another Mindcrack episode, but I figure this is I have a hard time, because I know in Mindcrack I want to actually do stuff like build or explore and stuff like that. So I feel Far Lands or Bust is far more of the vloggy, podcasty series where this sort of stuff I can really, even though at times I feel like I've been going off on tangents during this episode, I feel it's a good platform where I can just run my mouth and talk about things, and hopefully in the comments below you can let me know what you think about what I've been saying. Perhaps maybe some of you feel the same way, and this might have been the first time you've thought about it in the way that, oh yeah, it is kind of this scientific, this animal response, and it rationalizes it more, and maybe you can then, the way I look at it, the next time I start to feel like worried about something that is unnatural, or say, I'm not saying I've cured myself with science. One of my big fears that I still have that's completely irrational, and I recognize that it's not something that I should be afraid of, is, I guess you'd call it a phobia, is phone calls. I do not like making or receiving phone calls. I still have to work on boiling down where that came from, if anywhere. But I will have, even people I know, like, say, my parents. I've had situations where I wanted to call and just say, oh, I wasn't doing anything, didn't have dinner plans or anything to eat, and just want to, okay, let's call my dad to see if he wants to go out to dinner or something like that, where I'll sit there and look at the contacts on my phone, and I'll start to have that sort of panic attack fear response. Not against the person I'm calling or the person I'm receiving a call from. It's just a weird, unbalanced reaction to the situation. And that's a real thing. Other people have phone phobias and things like that, and that is related to social phobias and social anxieties and introversion and things like that. So it's still something I definitely work on, and just knowing, what's the word I'm looking for? Instead of getting wrapped up in it, I find it more interesting to look at and learn about the science behind it, and understand it. And that's, some people, it's also good for your own personal safety, because some people will take advantage of other people's fears. There was a lot of that going around with the December 21st, 2012 thing. And, people were selling books and seminars and things. And you also had, to an extreme state, there was the whole, with the comet, the Hale-Bopp comet. There was was it Heaven's Gate there was a cult. This guy, he obviously believed it himself, but he capitalized on other people's irrational fears of the end of the world with the comet and used that against them and talked them into handing over all of their possessions and money to this cult, and then they all ended up, killing themselves, thinking that it was the end of the world and stuff like that. So it's worth educating yourself to the scientific and the truths behind it, because we do understand this a lot better than, say, 300 years ago, when people would have certain mental or social anxieties. They would say, oh, he's cursed. Oh, we need to have an exorcism, or blah, 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 whatever. We're beyond that now. We can use our large prefrontal cortexes, our much more advanced brains, and we can use that to suppress and understand the more animal aspects of our brains and fear and things like that. So it's a good thing now, I think. And I hope, like I said, I hope talking about this, it has certainly helped me, even just talking about it, because I haven't, since college, since writing those papers, really thought about it much. And now I'm actually starting to understand, maybe I should, instead of allowing myself to get overwhelmed when doing something as simple as making or taking a phone call, maybe I should think about the things I've talked about in this very episode to help me understand and overcome those sort of things. So, like I said, in the comments below, maybe if you want to share some of what you might feel are irrational fears, not that there's anything wrong with them, like I've been saying, but it's worth just recognizing, and then perhaps you learn more about yourself by doing research and understanding this stuff, and you understand that, yeah, even though, let me bring this back, let me bring this back to the topic I opened with. Even though there has been a few stories in the news and, other people who might take advantage of your fears are the news people, they want to sell you newspapers and ad impressions, so they'll come up with crazy headlines for their news stories. Ooh, meteor panic, or stuff like that, or meteor explodes just like an atom bomb, or is your city next? They'll do stuff like that to take advantage of your fears. So if you already have a leg up on understanding their tactics and also your own reactions to such things, you're doing much better than them, and you can tell them to go away. Just I'm making the dust away motion with my hands, which is great. Hand gestures are great for an audio commentary in a video game, Kurt. Good job. Keep up the good work. You are a true professional and a man of class and other such things as these. But yeah, another interesting topic that just came up. Like I said, check out Paz's video where he was talking about this too. This is, like I said, he kind of brought this topic up for me. The inspiration is Paz, so check out his Mindcrack episode 186. You can keep going to farlandsbus.com to contribute to Child's Play charity, or click on the donate button on the end slate here. I do appreciate it, and I appreciate you guys kind of following along with these episodes where we're walking to the far lands and just talking, getting to know each other, learning about things, answering questions, all that fun stuff. It's a wonderful friendship that we have, is it not? Wolfie? Care to chime in? Did he bark? I might have talked over him barking. Woof! Okay, yeah, he barked right there. All right, so thanks for watching. There we go. My name is Kurt. I will see you next time.